gonna let him die because you screwed up.
Technically, your case, you screwed up. Is that what this is about?
This is House MD. If you've ever seen one single episode of House, you've basically seen them all. Yet somehow the show has 8 seasons, and after over a decade, people still love it. It's almost like predictable writing doesn't make a show bad. How? Well, honestly, it depends. To go back to the example of House, this is basically how a House episode goes. Someone gets sick, usually they're not interesting enough for House until they are. The group diagnoses, they treat, it's wrong, they diagnose again, treat again, wrong again. House usually has something else going on in the meantime that suddenly gives him an epiphany that includes the answer, and then the patient is cured. And that is basically every single episode of House, for 8 seasons long. But I don't think that that's bad necessarily, because that predictability isn't personally why I love watching House. I watch it for the humor and for the characters, not for the medical mystery. And then suddenly, it's an entirely different show. But yes, if you're watching it for the medicine, it is pretty much the same every single episode, even if the actual disease they're dealing with is usually different. It's not necessarily bad because of it, but I could see why it can put people off. A show that I think is on the other side of the spectrum though is Criminal Minds, a show that I've watched 2 times in its entirety right now, and it is 17 seasons long. For the most part, it's just your regular crime show, but the show or its writing never ever feels repetitive, not even once. This is honestly all because of the characters. They all have such iconic personalities that the way they deal with situations makes the otherwise maybe boring crimes a lot more interesting. And this is especially the case when an episode focuses on one of the characters' lives. So basically what I'm saying is, predictable writing doesn't have to be bad, but making a story in a way that it is not predictable is still preferred in a lot of ways. It still makes a story better if that unpredictability is a big part of your story. Because people like not knowing what's coming. They love surprises. Another important part of the question, is predictable writing bad, is honestly as simple as it is, no, bad writing is bad. Predictable writing doesn't have to be bad writing. House is a fantastically written show, most of the time, but something like Mortal Engines is possibly the worst thing that any writer could have ever come up with. And I'm gonna be very, very honest here. It's my opinion, obviously. The books for Mortal Engines are also terrible. The movie, however, was so bad that I honestly wanted to erase it from my memory. So yeah, bad writing is bad. A bad story is bad. Being predictable doesn't have to be. That said, both House and Criminal Minds do have bad episodes. Terribly written episodes. But that's a topic for a whole different video. Now, how would I go about avoiding this predictability in writing myself? What I like to do is just imagine the most predictable route my story could take, and then either take care of it right away by just making it happen right then and there, already early on in the story, to honestly just subvert expectations. Or otherwise I use it to know what I should work around when working towards an ending, for example. But most of the time I like writing with only a basic outline. I have an idea for a story and I have a basic idea of where I want it to go, where I want it to end. But usually what I do is I just write and I see how I get there. And sometimes the way I write makes it so I don't get there. With my first novel, Sorry About Me, I had an idea for an ending, but when I was writing it was going in a certain direction that made it that was not the ending. It never even happened. So funnily enough, doing it this way makes it that I usually don't know what's going to happen in my story. And therefore, the most predictable outcome is usually not the one that actually makes it to the story. But then again, with some stories, it is okay for it to be predictable. As long as the story itself is immersive and you're proud of what you've written, who cares, right? Most of the time, the people experiencing your story do not care. I know the structure of most rom-coms these days, but that doesn't mean that I stopped enjoying them. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below what your opinion is on this specific topic. Subscribe, see y'all next time.